In a faraway kingdom where mountains wore crowns of snow and valleys carried the perfume of wild roses, there lived a king and queen whose palace stood like a pearl in the heart of green hills. They were kind rulers, loved by their people, but their hearts held a quiet longing. For many years, they hoped for a child to share their love with, but the cradle in the royal nursery remained empty. They prayed in gardens, wished upon stars, and left small offerings of honey and milk at the ancient well where blessings were said to be carried in the water. One spring morning, when the lilacs were just beginning to bloom, the queen sat by her window embroidering tiny flowers on a piece of silk. A soft golden light drifted into the room, and with it, a voice as light as the rustle of petals. "Your patience is rewarded, dear queen. By this time next spring, you shall hold your daughter in your arms." The queen looked up, startled, but saw no one, only the air trembling with a quiet joy. And indeed, as the seasons turned, her heart swelled with a new, secret happiness. When the day came, the palace bells rang and swallows danced above the turrets. A baby girl was born, healthy, rosy, and with eyes as bright as morning dew. The king and queen named her Aurora, for they said she brought the dawn into their lives. The king invited everyone in the kingdom to celebrate Aurora's birth, from the grandest noble to the humblest shepherd. And he also summoned the 7 fairies who watched over the land, so each might give the child a gift. The banquet hall was dressed in silk banners and garlands of fresh roses. Musicians played tunes as soft as the sea on a summer day, and long tables groaned under fruits, pastries, and golden bread. One by one, the fairies approached Aurora's cradle, each carrying a gift not of gold or jewels, but of something far rarer. The first fairy touched Aurora's brow and said, "I give you beauty of face and form, so that your presence will shine like sunlight on water." The second said, "I give you a voice sweet as a nightingale's song." The third, "I give you grace in every movement, as if the wind itself carries you." The fourth, "I give you kindness, that all who meet you may feel warmth in your company." The fifth, "I give you wisdom, so your heart will always know truth." The sixth, "I give you joy, so you may laugh even on cloudy days." Just as the 7th fairy stepped forward, the great doors to the hall swung open with a gust of cold wind. In the doorway stood a tall woman dressed in robes black as raven's wings. Her hair shimmered like frost, and her eyes glimmered with something sharp. This was the fairy Morgath, one who had not been seen in the kingdom for many years. She had not been invited. In truth, she had been forgotten. The king, flustered, hurried to greet her. "Lady Morgath, had we known you were near, we would have sent for you." Her smile was thin. "Indeed? How strange, when every other fairy received a golden invitation." She stepped forward and looked into the cradle. "Such a lovely child. It is a pity her life will not be long." Gasps swept the hall. Morgath lifted one pale hand and spoke in a voice like cracked ice. "When the princess reaches her 16th birthday, she will prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel and fall down dead." The queen gave a cry and rushed to the cradle. The king stood frozen. But before anyone could speak, Morgath turned in a swirl of dark fabric and swept from the hall. The 7th fairy, who had been waiting silently, now stepped forward. She was smaller than the others, her hair like spun silver, her eyes full of light. "I cannot undo Morgath's words entirely," she said softly, "but I can soften them." She bent over Aurora and whispered, "Sweet child, you will indeed prick your finger, but you will not die. Instead, you shall fall into a deep, gentle sleep, a sleep that will last 100 years, until a prince of true heart awakens you with a kiss." The king and queen, though still afraid, felt hope return. They ordered at once that every spinning wheel in the kingdom be burned, broken, or hidden away. Aurora grew under the loving eyes of her parents, watched over by the 6 good fairies, each visiting in turn to teach her kindness, music, reading, and the dance of the seasons. On the morning of her 16th birthday, Aurora woke to a sky the color of pale gold. The palace bustled with preparations for the feast, tables laid with sugared fruits, flowers floating in crystal bowls, musicians tuning their lutes. Aurora wandered through the quiet upper corridors, humming to herself. She had never been in a tall, round tower at the far end of the east wing, but today the door stood ajar. Inside, she found an old woman bent over a curious wooden contraption, a spinning wheel. Its wheel turned with a gentle hum, and the spindle gleamed like polished amber. "What is that?" Aurora asked. "A spinning wheel, dear," the woman said with a smile. "Would you like to try? It's quite harmless." Aurora sat beside her and reached out. The moment her finger brushed the spindle, a tiny prick, no more than a rose's thorn, a wave of sleepiness swept over her. Her eyes fluttered, and she sank to the floor as gently as a leaf falls into water. The good fairy who had softened Morgath's curse appeared in a shimmer of light. She touched the king and queen's shoulders. "Do not weep, she sleeps, as I foretold. And to keep her safe, the whole palace shall sleep with her, until the day her true love comes." So it happened. The cooks in the kitchens put down their spoons mid-stir, the guards paused mid-step, even the doves on the windowsills tucked their heads under their wings. The fairy waved her wand once more, and from the earth sprang a thick hedge of thorny roses. They grew entwined, higher and higher, until they hid the palace entirely from view. No one could pass through without being caught by the thorns. Time passed in the world beyond the thorns. Kings rose and fell, villages grew and changed, forests crept closer to the palace walls. Yet inside, Aurora and all her people lay peaceful, untouched by age or sorrow. Travelers spoke of the hidden castle, guarded by roses. Many brave knights tried to cut their way through, but the thorns were strong and would not yield. One summer morning, a young prince named Alaric rode into the village near the old forest. He heard the tale from an old shepherd: "A sleeping princess lies within a thorn-covered castle. Many have tried to reach her. None have returned." Something in the story stirred the prince's heart. He took up his sword and set off. When he reached the hedge, he found the roses blooming as if in welcome. The thorns parted, curling aside to let him pass, and closed again behind him. Through silent halls he walked, past sleeping courtiers and guards, until at last he came to the highest tower. There she lay, a young woman, her hair spread like sunlight on the pillow, her cheeks touched with the faint blush of dreams. The prince knelt beside her, and, moved by a tenderness he could not name, he kissed her gently. Aurora's eyes opened. She looked at him with wonder, as if she had known him in dreams. Around them, the palace stirred, cooks resumed their stirring, guards took their steps, doves lifted their heads. The roses at the gates unfurled to let sunlight in. The king and queen embraced their daughter with tears of joy. A feast was declared at once, more splendid even than the one at her birth. Aurora and Prince Alaric were wed in the great hall, under garlands of fresh roses, the very flowers that had guarded her all those years. And though the kingdom had changed beyond the palace walls, Aurora ruled with kindness and wisdom, as the fairies had promised. The thorns never returned. Instead, roses bloomed in every garden, a reminder that even in the deepest sleep, love keeps watch. And so they lived, not just happily ever after, but gently, wisely, and always awake to the beauty of each day.